Hi everyone and welcome back to SGTV. I am Ben, this is Jen, this is Ben. Some great names here. So you guys are from Aries Electrical. You've come to Scolmore HQ today to talk to us about a few things. We're going to do a few episodes with you guys. But I didn't realise until you both got here that you weren't just, straight into the industry straight away, that you've both had previous careers. So I think it'd be quite good to talk to you both about your careers and how you've came to where you are now, and just tell us a bit about that. Should we start with you, Jen?
Yeah, so most of my history over the last 13 years has been working in gyms. I sort of have done a bit of everything in them. Mainly personal training. I've worked for myself, I've had my studios and things like that. And to be honest with you, since I had children, it just became really difficult to be able to sort of work the shifts, the hours and things that are demanded of you. And unfortunately, you just can't meet business needs. So I took a bit of a step back, went into literally just front of house work, teaching a few classes just so it'd work in with obviously spending time with my family as well, because my husband's actually in the armed forces, so he's very rarely home. So as you know, we've spoke about it, in the industry, you have to work weekends.
Yeah.
And he's very rarely home and only home on a week. It just didn't fit in with family life. So in the end, the industry just wasn't what it used to be. And I just thought, I need to do something else. I need to do something that's challenging me, because nothing really challenged me anymore, especially academically, because I'd actually taught the qualifications. So I'd sort of got to a level where, there was CPD and things were changing, but just wasn't learning anything new. And then not being able to put my full self into it, I found really hard because I was really passionate about it. So to have to go and work in a gym where nobody really sort of cared that much, they just did that job and that was it. Or they weren't going to speak to somebody or help somebody because they wanted the £30-40 an hour rather than just being like, I'll help you.
Yeah.
Like, that was me. And it just went, the industry just wasn't what it used to be. And I just thought, I need to get out of here because I just don't like it anymore. And then electricians was something that I looked at prior to leaving school, but obviously back when I left school, it wasn't really a female-oriented industry.
Yeah, that's something we're going to talk about a bit more in another episode, so keep your eyes out for that one. We are going to talk a bit more in depth about that. But
yeah, so obviously with the women coming through, I just thought, you know what, why not? Let's do it.
Yeah. Do you mind me asking what age you was when you changed into electrics?
34.
So, see, that's, to me, I think a lot of people I know, I'm 34. I had to think about that then. I'm 34 as well, and I think a lot of people our age, they do think, I'm in a industry or a career that I'm not particularly happy with now. I'm too old to change and to relearn, And I'm like, well, no, I know people in their 40s, mid 40s, late 40s who are changing careers, and our age especially, I think there's no reason why you couldn't.
No, I think the spur on for it as well. Like, my mother-in-law, she retrained in her 40s to be a mental health nurse.
Yeah.
She went to university and become a mentor and stuff like that. So she was living proof that you could do it and actually live, get a decent wage, enjoy what you do, but still have that family life balance. So for me, that was probably one of the biggest motivators. I've seen someone do it. So
yeah. I love that though. I think everyone has someone they're influenced by, whether it's a family member or even seeing someone on YouTube or TV. If that's your influence, if that's your drive, then brilliant. It doesn't matter if it's a bit cheesy or whatever, but if that drives you, then do it.
Yeah, definitely.
So how did you end up with Ben here? I like Ben because he's got a brilliant name and he's got a ginger beard. So
I'll take that as a beard. I'll take that.
Yeah. So obviously the way the world's gone now, it's very social media based, isn't it? So I decided I would switch over sort of my Instagrams. They were all very sports oriented, PT based, obviously, for the industry that I'd been in. And I thought, right, I'm just going to start up a separate one, because same as my LinkedIn, I'll start up a new one because I had so much coverage and people that knew about me as fitness. Everything was reaching the wrong people. So I started up a new one. I started following people. I started following the companies I was training through, stuff like that. And I got in touch with... it was sort of Sparky Ninja, basically, an apprentice one-to-one. And I put a thing out on Instagram. They started sharing it. And then Ben picked it up and he just sent me a message and said, where are you at with your training?
Yeah.
I've possibly got something I can offer for you to help you qualify. And we had a bit of a chat on the phone.
And you stuck with each other.
And that was it. Here we are, sort of nearly a year later.
Work, married couple, almost.
Yeah. So how about you, Ben? Because again, you said before you got here that you didn't go straight into the industry. You've had previous careers. So tell us a bit about that.
I was a young boy and was debating between joining the army or getting out of the situation where I was living, or go and retrain as a Sparky. And I think back then, if I'd retrained as a Sparky where I was in life, I don't think I'd have made it, because I had no work ethic. I grew up without a dad, so I didn't really know how to be, a man as such. And I think I'd have creamed it in and not enjoyed it and come out dealing with some of the hardships that we do with, say, now. So I went into the forces. I did 4 years in the forces. I come out when I was just before I turned 21. At the same time, I had a little boy on the way. He was born a couple of months after, so I bounced from job to job, trying to find a career. And everything I joined with determination that I was going to reach higher. Because as I was getting out, I was starting to get to a good point in my career, and then all of a sudden I was diagnosed with PTSD and was medically discharged from the British Army from that. So going through that and bouncing back and getting to remission and no longer struggling with myself, mentally, I then put into whatever job I was getting into. So I went into like a car manufacturing place, put myself into that, but it was agency, and quite quickly I realised people out in civilian street, at least, that I was finding, you would become friends with, etc. And you would, all of a sudden they would go behind your back and do something, and I found that quite quickly on, that you couldn't trust the people that you thought you could. And
I suppose it's a different sort of, when you're in the army, you're brothers, aren't you?
Exactly,
you've got each other's back.
Well, I could literally fall out with you over something quite serious, but I know full well that I could trust my life on you. So I really, really struggled with that when I got out, and adapting to civvy life, as we call it. So yeah, my partners kind of quite quickly realised I was becoming quite depressed. Not through anything that I was going through before, but just I wasn't happy with where I was in life. Just going to work, I was working 12-hour night shifts for like 6 months straight, 7 days a week, just to try and make ends meet, to the point where we were getting into poverty. It was really kind of guessing what bills we were going to pay. So in the end, she said, you need to sort this out. You need to sort your life out, and not just as a case of bringing more money in, because frankly she didn't care about that. It was, we need to get you healthy. We need to get you enjoying what you do. And I'm one of these people where my head's got to be busy with my hands. Can't have my hands busy, or I can't just be busy with my head. So that's where I looked at what we could do. And originally I was like, I can't take an apprenticeship wage, I can't do it. We won't be able to live.
Yeah.
I won't be able to afford the rent.
I mean, some apprenticeships, they won't pay.
Yeah, exactly. So, I kind of searched online and how about I could do it. So in the end, I ended up opting for a private college kind of course where you do a lot of learning at home and then go into the college to do like the practical learning side of things. And that's how I went about getting qualified. So it took us...
I was going to say, how long does that take, that course?
They put it out for 3 years, but it is literally, the harder you work, the quicker it can get done. But I'm of the mindset of, if you put the work in, you get it done quick.
Yeah. So
I didn't want to get it done too quick where I wouldn't retain any of the information, but I'm one of these people that learn. As soon as I've learnt it, I know it, as long as I've done it with my hands as well. So luckily, I fell into a couple of subcontracting jobs as electrician's mates. It was kind of how I got into the industry. Kind of fake it till you make it almost to get in the job, and then really work hard at the jobs. And I was saying to you before how I would work literally like a 12-hour shift on my lunch, be in my books, trying to learn, trying to understand what it is I need to do for the next part of my course. I'd get home, I'd be home for 6-7 o'clock, and I'd be eating dinner, watching Nick Bundy as he's,
shout out to Nick.
Yeah, big time. It helped me through my quals, and it wasn't just a case of learning from what he was doing, but it was just nice to see people, especially from the Staffordshire area, doing nice work and quality
taking
work.
pride in the work.
Yeah, and just being honest as well. I think that was the big thing that I found was people on YouTube as well, like all the other Sparks that are on there. Sparky Ninja helped me massively when it comes to do my 18th edition, and not through. I didn't sit the course I didn't think he was running it then when I did mine, but. It was just helped to see someone explain it in a way that wasn't trying to get you to pass a test. It was getting you to try to actually understand what it is, the meaning behind this regulation.
Yeah,
You know?
not just do this because you've got
Because
to do
you've
it,
been
but
told to, yeah.
telling you why you need that, how that's going to apply in the real world.
Well, that's it, yeah. And I really, for about a year and a half, I was literally coming home and I was in my textbook. I didn't take a break off. Like, I was hammering it to the point where I would miss out on family time and stuff. And I know work-life balance is important, but for me, it was to get us out of that situation.
Yeah, it's the long game, isn't it?
Yeah, I needed to make that money, almost. So that's kind of what I did.
Do you mind me asking sort of the rough cost of the course you did? Just because, people out there watching who might be in a similar position.
So I won't say the place where I went through, but there's many providers out there. But for my provider that we used, I think they're nationwide as well. They did, I think it cost me about £7,500, and we did my level 2 2365 qualification, electrical installation, level 3 2365 electrical installation, and you did the fundamental inspection and testing 2392, I think it's called, periodic inspection 2391, your 18th edition 2383, I think, off the top of my head. 2382, something like that, I'm guessing now. And then we also did the Part B building regs, and then you also then do your practical MVQ at the end, once you finished all of that, and your AM2.
So that's quite in depth then, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
when you said a course, I thought maybe you meant one of the shorter courses.
No. So it was a case of I had 3 years to do it, and I did it in about 2 years because of how quickly I was getting through information. And then alongside, I was working non-stop all the time. I found a lot of the lads that I was on the course with, and I say lads because there wasn't any females on my course. I think I actually met one female who was similar to yourself as a PT, and she was retraining, but she didn't make it through. She kept failing the courses, unfortunately. But a lot of them were completely fresh, and I think there was a little bit of a dangerous situation because there were people on my course who were going in for their AM2 or getting ready for their AM2 or just starting for their practical stuff and waiting basically to finish that final MVQ part, and they've never touched a tool. The only time they've been on a tool was within the college. So I think it's really important about getting into the industry, but it is hard. I think you struggled more than me.
I've done a similar thing. Mine's not really sort of as a college as such. I've paid a similar price. All the same things, level 2s, 3s, test and inspection. I've added solar PV and EV charging points onto mine as well, because obviously that's the future. So I've done it, and mine is very much, I do so much. I do the assignment, I send it in, I do it online, they send it back. But I'm similar, that I'm a practical learner.
You want that?
I will pick up more that way, and it is really hard. And I won't blame it all on me being a female, but I think through just sort of a few experiences, a lot of people do look at me and say they'd rather take a lad over me. But we've been in a couple of situations where it's proved that actually gender doesn't make any difference, does it?
No. I mean,
with the quality of work and stuff like that.
I think people are. I'd like to think most people have got a bit more. They've grown up, haven't they? They understand it.
Don't get me wrong.
You still get the old school guys on site, don't you?
Yeah, we've come across it, and it's a difficult one from my side of things. Of you actually working for
just
me.
Put expanding foam in the sandwiches. And,
I mean, it's all right. Generally, it's quite positive. Most people are quite impressed by it, especially the old school guys, when they see what I do as well and what I can do. And they see me up and down ladders, and they see me pulling cables and drilling into walls, and they're just like, oh, wow. Yeah. So it's like, it's not always negative. And to be honest, I've been quite lucky, I think. I've had a lot more positives than negatives within it.
I think we've really had.
And obviously, with Ben as well, he wasn't even really bothered about the fact that
Ben's just dropped his phone. I find it interesting about your mentality as well for both of you, especially with what you said, Ben, that like when you was younger, if you was to have gone into an apprenticeship or some sort of learning to be an electrician at a young age, you just wouldn't have gelled to it.
I didn't have the work mentality. I didn't have that work ethic. Yeah. And I think when I went into the forces, it taught me, I say, how to be a man, and when I say that, I mean it taught me to be disciplined and respectful of others and have integrity. Yeah. Show loyalty to the people and be selfless as well in regards to try and help the people around you. If you're doing well, the people around you should be doing well as well. And to me, that's really, really important, especially now as a company, we're starting to do better and bring in some bigger jobs and stuff. But I really, really find it important for people like yourself, Jen, for you to come along with us on that, because you've helped us get there.
I mean, you're going to probably you're going to recognise that in Ben. Everyone's worked for someone with someone who is solely in it for themselves. They don't really care. But you quickly cotton on to someone who that they're good. They're going to look after you. They're going to help you, and it's going to work both ways.
It is, because the thing is as well, like especially with us two, I think naturally, I've only been doing this since June. So I'm not completely experienced, but what I have noticed with regards to test centres, I'll be honest, like academically, I've never been great. It's always taken me a couple of tries. I never got the A stars and things. I was sort of sitting always on the borderline C's that I had to work really hard for. That's just, everybody learns differently. I am more of a practical learner. That just works good for me. So I've noticed with the test, like Ben was saying about someone never picking up the tools by the end of the time they've got to their course. Well, I've noticed with test centres that actually I'm probably a bit better on the tools, even though I don't pick up as quickly as the rest of them academically. But that's why, because I've been doing both, and obviously trying to retain the both. It's hard work, because I've got 2 kids at home as well, and a husband that's never there, and a father-in-law that I care for too. So it's just like I'm trying to do all this in one.
It's a lot, isn't it? But
he recognises that, and if he just sees that, actually there's a bit of improvement there, she's doing all right with that, he won't push me to do any more, because he wants me to do that and get it good before he'll move me on to the next stage. And that's quite important, I think, as someone that comes from a teaching background within the fitness industry and a similar mentality for that. So that's probably why when I work with Ben, I find it really good, because that's how it works.
You've touched on flexibility, and again, I know we spoke similar, but we're going to do another episode about sort of flexible work environments and work-life balance. So, keep an eye out for that one. But sort of just coming back on the mentality side of things, not to discredit young people or apprentices, because, we've just been out to Leicester College, and there was some incredible apprentices there. That young, that determined, and that switched on. It blew me away. But like you say, when you're young, you might not necessarily have the the application to do that. So sort of, I don't think training later in life is a bad thing at all, because you're going to have a completely different mentality.
You bring something else to the table. It's just, even just with the things like we've done recently. Social media, you've never struggled with work, you've always had it from word of mouth and stuff like that. But since I've brought the social media aspect into it, that's just another skill that I have, that, okay, it's not electrical, but it's just another skill that I have, but together it works really well.
Yeah, massively.
So it just shows that taking on someone a bit older actually isn't always the end of the world.
No, not at all. It's maturity, isn't it, and experience.
I think when I found trying to get into the industry, even only at 21, I was really struggling because I was older, and people almost look at it and go, "Oh, you're not mouldable. You're too the way I want you." And I understand that, because from you want people that you can mould to the way that you do things, where you like it, because you obviously want your work to, the other people that do the work for you.
Well, you set a standard for your company, don't you? And you want
everyone to kind of represent that standard of what you're trying to do as a company. But also, for me, I think people who are older are almost more appealing, because I have had younger apprentices, and because of things that happen when you're young, you think you know it all, and you're starting to become a man or a woman, or you're starting to grow up as an adult, and you're starting to realise, like, you can say certain things and do certain things, and you're starting to enjoy, adulthood almost. It almost kind of gets sidetracked to the fact that you actually need to really focus on what it is you're doing now, because you're learning something that's going to help you for the rest of your life. Once you've got that trade, that's you. Like, you're always learning. Every day is a school day, and any person who's in this trade who thinks they know it all is in the wrong trade, because this trade, every single day I learn something new, and that's why I love what I do. Like, I truly, really enjoy what I do, because you never know it all. No. It's great, but that's the problem with I've found personally with young apprentices, is they think they know it all, or they think that because they've done a little bit, or they've been on, they get comfortable. And for me, it's always just stay that determined to constantly be asking that next question of, why are we doing this, and why are we trying to do this, and what's the reason behind that? And you can, if you've got a good tutor, and they can sit there and say, well, actually, it's because we're trying to conform to this regulation. We're trying to achieve this because it's good workmanship. It may not be a regulation, but it looks good, and aesthetically it looks really nice, and it makes that your end user, especially in domestic, it makes the end user that next step like happier almost. You're doing that little next thing. You may not have quoted for it, but it's that next. It's
going to get word of mouth, isn't
it? That's it, and it helps. I mean, it may not pay for it now, but it'll pay for it when it brings in the next job and stuff. And I think that's the thing that I've found with people that are older, coming into the trade is they have that kind of ambition and like determination to think, I'm driven because I'm paying for this course. They're not giving it to me for free.
Got a family to support, bills to pay.
That's it, yeah.
Not living at home playing
everyone's
FIFA.
trying to prove himself almost, and to me that's like fantastic, especially people coming into the trade.
I want to ask you both, I'm not going to go too deep into mental health side of things, but you've both said, you feel good doing it, and you've said before, you almost fell a bit into depression from previous careers. So do you find, having spoken to other electricians, other tradespeople that have had similar sort of, issues with mental health and depression, they've found coming into the electrical industry, or any trade for that matter, it helps because you're almost seeing practical, positive results. And from what they're telling me, it's just making them feel better. It's giving them that.
I think it is because it's an end line. So, like, obviously, he's touched on PTSD. Probably the biggest kick up the bum for me to get into the industry was the fact that I had quite a bad relapse with that before I started. And that was kind of I've got to do something. And then, obviously, speaking to Ben, when we kind of realised we'd got a little bit of a mutual sort of history as such, it was quite nice because we both understand it. But I think with electrics, and like you say, any trade, sometimes when you're suffering from mental health, I think you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And when you're doing something like electrics, when you're wiring a house from start to finish, or you're literally just putting a socket in or whatever, you see where it started and you see an end product. And having that end product is really, really important because that's what picks you up at the end because you've finished something. Yeah. And I think that's what it is because mental health never is finished.
No.
I think everybody suffers from it from a certain point, from a certain aspect, whether it be severe or whether it just be actually I'm having a bad time at the minute and I'm struggling and then that time goes. But with electrics, everything always has an end point. It's never, you don't just, I'll put that cable in, I'll come back. I might not come back. That doesn't happen.
No, you've got to finish it. You've got to make it
has to be finished, so it gives you that.
I think it almost triggers something a bit primal in us. I think because we're essentially supposed to be out doing stuff constantly to keep us over. Every animal has a purpose. We're animals at the end of the day. This is going a bit deep now, but I think just having that sort of productive attitude and seeing something finished, it just gives you that little boost, and then you can go on to the next thing, and it just keeps you going.
And I think that is, for me anyway. I don't know about you, but I think that's
I just know I'd really dread retiring.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to be a busy man. I'm going to be on a golf course 6 times a week, or at least something when I retire, because for me, I've got to, when I get home and I get into bed at the end of the day, I've got to be physically and mentally drained. In a good way. Yeah. But I've got to be like that, because otherwise I don't feel like I've achieved what I need to achieve that day. Yeah. And so, you don't get me wrong, you don't have it some days. Some days I'm driving around quoting all day, and you're a little bit tired from driving and that, and your head's a bit busy because you're thinking of all the jobs, but you don't feel like you've done a lot of work, you're not earning your money that day. But, when you finally get onto the job and for me, and I think you had it as well, you actually had a very, very bad experience with some builders. Yeah. To the point where she had this massive extension done and an annex and stuff for your father-in-law that you're caring for. And the builders had overcharged and under-delivered. Point where this was actually the same time that we were speaking. You said, actually, do you mind coming over and just checking these electrics? I've just started this course, and I know you're speaking to me about working and all the rest of it. So I was like, well, it's a good opportunity for me to meet you anyway. Yeah. So I come round to the property and had a look, and straight away I had to say, look, this needs stopping now. This work that this electrician is doing is severely bad. It's dangerous, and you've got kids in the house. You've got obviously.
It said something at the fact that I'd had my books for 2 days and I'd already picked up on things that weren't regulation. That's just bad, from having that. So then obviously like he says, I said, can you look? Because I don't want to be that person that's had my books for 2 days and then says you're doing that wrong to someone that's qualified.
But it's worked, hasn't it? It's paid off that you did do that.
To get to my point, we had to rewire the whole extension. To rewire a new build is mental, but we had to rewire it, and when we finally got to the point where we could turn power on, we turned on the spotlights in the place, and Jen broke down crying. Yeah. And to me, and that's happened quite a few times with different clients, especially, it's a reoccurring thing at the minute that we're having clients that are having really bad experiences with other tradesmen. And because everyone's getting a lot of work done at the minute and starting to slow down a little bit now, but especially through COVID, everyone was not going on holiday and stuff, so they've all got that spare money and was using it on renovating the houses, and it opened up a massive market for everybody, but also the bad as well. And I don't speak for everybody, but for us at least, we come across, especially a couple of projects we've got running at the minute, where clients are having problems with the builder who are just and they're not particularly being bad builders, they're just causing them a lot of issues on the job management side of things and things like that. So when the client comes in and they finally see that power on and the lights are all on, and
it's like an overwhelming feeling
Yeah.
when you've been going through something for so long.
It's
That's
like
the thing that
switch has literally clicked where we're
I mean,
finally getting
in
to
that
the end
instance,
point.
you're the customer, you're the electrician. You don't realise what people are going through. You do.
No, no.
Everyone's going through stuff, and if you just fixing someone's house or some dodgy electrics, that's just a job, on the surface point for you. But for someone else, where they might have put a lot of money into it, a lot of stress, a lot of upset. People don't like confrontation, so to be ringing up, sparkies or builders, whether it's a little old lady or anyone, it's stressful. It's going to be causing them a lot of distress, and for heroes like yourself who are coming in, it means everything, doesn't it?
I got the builder to confront the electrician, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
And he didn't do a very good job of it, because the electrician then reappeared in my house and was drilling, and I had to then go down myself. He wasn't exactly the most pleasant person to me, I have to say. Which then led to him cutting a live wire in my house and when he was trying to rip the cables out and fighting with the builders. So it was so then obviously this relationship blossomed probably through a lot of that, really, because I actually then ended up helping to rewire. My husband was helping you.
Yeah, he was.
Because obviously he's an electrical engineer, but within the forces.
Yeah.
So he saw a side of it as well, which he quite enjoyed. So it became sort of like a project, really, didn't it?
Yeah,
it was nice. It taught me a lot.
You actually took a step away from the tools for a little bit to gather yourself back a bit, because I think I was witnessing you. She was working with us whilst the build was going on. And we were talking about one subject, for example, like earthing systems, I think it was at the time.
Yeah.
Which was quite at the beginning of the stages of training, and we were breaking it down and going through it, and we'll come to it the same thing the next day. I'm like, right, so what's this then? And I'd get a blank face, and I kind of realised that there's a lot going on at the minute, and that mental health can really have an effect on how people retain information and learn and how they enjoy, because you're not really there, are you?
No.
Your head's away thinking about what's going on at home. So I felt it important at the time to just kind of give you the space that you needed to get through that, and if we could help you, great.
And do you think that's,
if
it weren't for Ben, would you have stuck with this, do you think?
I think I'd have, if I'm honest with you, even if Ben hadn't come along, I'd 100% stuck with it, because that electrician that did that to my house and did that to me and my family, that cost us £20,000-30,000 than it should have cost us on top of what we were already paying to get it rectified. Not just him, but the builders in general, with a lot of things.
Yeah, there was so much
my determination was, I want to make sure that doesn't happen to somebody else, and I will never be that electrician. I will be somebody that actually does their job properly and does it to a good standard and makes the client feel happy about it, because I would never want that to happen to me. Well, I wouldn't want what happened to me to happen to anybody else.
No.
So I think it probably still would have been a big driving point for me. And I'm just, I suppose, lucky in a way that I fell with Ben.
Yeah. You seem good together. You seem like you say, a bit of a working married couple. But
it's a bit of a running joke now, isn't it?
Well, I'm 10 years older than him, so sometimes I'm his mum as well.
Yeah, she is.
Sometimes sometimes he's his mum, sometimes I'm his sister.
I wonder why you were spanking him before we started.
Sorry, Paige.
But anyway, I want to thank you for both for coming down to Tamworth and to Scolmore HQ and talking with us. We've got some more episodes. We sort of touched on a little bit, but we're going to go into depth on some more subjects. So for our audience watching, please keep an eye out, and you'll see more from Ben, Jen, and Ben. Thank you all for watching. Please make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification button, and we'll all see you next time.